Hey everyone, so today I think we're just going to do kind of a simpler Grasshopper tutorial. You'll need Chromadoris for a portion of the meshing, and we're going to try to make something that looks like it's kind of dripping into a little bit of a space. So let's go to perspective, type in Grasshopper, and for our design geometry, I'm just going to type in box. We'll do a center box. Let's give it some dimensions here. So I'm going to make it a little bit more horizontal than vertical. So I'll bring this down just a bit here. Okay, we're just going to do populate geometry, and or populate 3D, not geometry. So we want 3D points, not just on the shell of the geometry. Get something like that. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to go over to our mesh. We're going to go to triangulation, and let's do proximity 3D. We'll plug those points into here. You'll start to notice lines start to show up, and basically all that's doing is kind of closest points, and it's just creating lines due to closest points to one another. So you can increase the intensity or you could lower it too, just depending on the groups, the radius, and the number of points that you have. So from here, what I'm going to do is actually divide out each one of those curves. So we'll go to divide curve. Okay, and then from here, we can just probably leave it at 10 for now. We'll go over to our Chromadoris, and if we go to isosurface, what we need to do is build an isosurface, and we need all these. So from here, what we'll do is do sample voxels, and that's based on points. We can plug the B and the D into here, and now we need to plug our points into the voxel sample, just like so. And we'll probably have to flatten these so we're not just creating separated samples. So we'll flatten that down. And then we need to give it some charge values, some sampling values, and some radiuses. So I'm just going to do a few of these, and we can probably copy and paste a few of them down. Okay, charge, we'll keep it at 1. Samples and the radius, just like so. Clean all this up so it's a little bit organized. And I'll make sure these are all spaced accordingly so we don't get lost. Okay, now we can just hide all this stuff and see what we're starting to get. So we get some nice kind of tube shapes that are all closed. So if you wanted to 3D print it, it would be all set and ready to go. And the next thing I want to do is kind of make it look like it's dripping. So we need to get some parts that kind of go just down in the Z direction. So to do this, I'm just going to do a random split list. Okay, and I'll just type in move, give it a Z vector, and we need to go in the negative direction. Give it just a moment here. And then from there, we'll just give it a value of, say, 25 for now. And we'll plug move into the B output here. And we'll plug everything down so it's going downwards. Just like so. And all we're going to do from here is create a line. And we'll just go from this point to this point. And we'll take that line and plug it directly into our divide curves. Okay. And you can see we're getting some kind of weird spacing through here. So that just tells me we'll just bring up this value just a bit, just so things start to connect just a bit more. Okay. Another thing we could do if we wanted to go a little bit higher like this, simply just add more points. So, instead of 10 by default, we just go over and add 15. So you could make it as dense as you want or not dense. And just to smooth all this out, so if we were to bake it out, it's going to look a little bit lumpy. If we go to our render viewport, you can start to see there's kind of chunky parts. We're just going to type in smooth, do smooth mesh. I'm going to put the strength all the way up to 1. And the iterations, let's do like 11. Okay, now that's really going to start to smooth it out. It might be a little bit too skinny, and it is. So all we need to do is, let's go over to, let's do effective range, maybe 0.5. Oop, not that one. Maybe we'll do sample value at 0.5. Thicken it up. There we go. So that's looking a little bit better. Let's bake it out, see what it looks like. So that might be a little bit too thick, and we're starting to get some holes starting to happen here. So let's bump that back up, maybe a 0.6. So we get some space in between. See what that looks like. That's a little bit better, for sure. Okay, I'm just going to undo that. And then from here, I'm going to type in contour just to give it some texture in the geometry. And let's slice it up in the X direction. And let's do like 0.5 for the contour distance. And let's type in boundary surfaces. Give ourselves some geometry. Hide it all out. And I'm going to put a custom preview in here so we can start to play with how this looks parametrically. Give it a color. White. Okay, we'll hide all this out. So I'm starting to get some pretty interesting stuff starting to formulate through here. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of play with the amount of points we have in our 3D geometry. Maybe we'll just lower the amount so it looks a little bit less box-like. So I like what's happening through here. And then one other thing I might do is take all of these random points. I'm just going to scale non-uniformly them to the center of this mass. Plug it back into there. Type in 1. Let's lower it down. Maybe like 75% or around there. Get it just towards the center. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. Might be a little bit too much. Bring it back out one more time. Okay, flatten that out. I don't think it'll make a huge difference there. Okay, let's hide all this stuff. That's kind of a nice looking dripping mass there. So just from here, I might increase the amount of contours, so I bring it down to like 0.2, just add a few more layers in there. That might be too many. Let's go back to 0.4, just a hair smaller. That looks pretty good. That's definitely interesting. Okay, so I think we'll work with this for our mass, and just to kind of change it up just a bit is I might do a call pattern, change the actual booleans to just true false or false true. Actually, we'll just do let's do dispatch, and we don't have to do it twice. Okay. Then from here, what I'm going to do is just type in join mesh, flatten that out, and we'll do the same for the next group there. And let's bake that all out. And this will be kind of our working mass that we'll start to play with here. So I think like a view like this would look really nice. Let's assign it some materials. Let's do wood 1, and we'll do the next group as wood 2. Okay, then as usual, I'm going to type in bounding box so we can start to play with our landscape, lock down our model. Okay, from here I'm just going to bring up that plane just a bit. And I'm thinking this might just be in kind of a park scene. So I'm going to bring this out, rebuild it. Let's do 125 or 124. And from here, let's give it some rolling hills. So we'll turn our points on. Let's go up to our select tab. Okay, let's just give it some random kind of meandering hills throughout here. Okay, we'll just bring that up. Doesn't have to be perfect right now. So, and then from here, I'm going to just type in smooth, really, really smooth it out. See what that looks like. Do it one more time. Another time. Okay. Then from here, I'm going to turn our points right back on. And we're going to make kind of a path that leads to our little pavilion here. So start from over here, meander it through. Then on the inside of it, we'll select everything, just like that. Then a path going outwards into the distance, wherever. You won't see it. Okay. Then all of these, I'm just going to pull down. We don't need the smooth after this because you want it to be kind of bleeding into a pathway. So we got something about like that. And then what I'm going to do next is just put a flat plane in there. This will be our path. We can lower this down just a bit. Assign it a material. So I'll just call this rock. And the next one will be grass. Let's see where our model's lining up. So it looks like we need to bring up our site model just so it hits our model a little teeny bit more. And let's go to Arctic mode, see what it looks like. And I'm going to unlock it. Which viewpoint were we going to take our rendering from? I think it's right here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I might just rotate it just a bit. It lines up with our pathway. That looks great to me, so we'll take it over to Lumion. So it imported into Lumion really quickly. I did adjust the scale because we had it really large and I didn't check the units in Rhino, but let's go ahead and start messing with some materials. Let's start with the grass. Go to some wild grass here. Let's do the pathway. Make that maybe, what else do they have in here? I could do something maybe like that, or just overall ground. That could be nice. And then for these, I was thinking this might be wood, but let's see how dark it becomes if it is wood. So we'll try out a couple different variations of this. So I want to be able to get, the layering starting to happen here. So we'll just play with that for now. Then let's go ahead and add our entourage and all the trees and all that. So I'm thinking this is kind of almost like a Midwestern scene. Let's get some broadleaf trees in here. Maybe out far in the distance, because these aren't the good ones. These are just clusters. So we'll just go far out in the distance with these. Okay. And we'll get some actual regular ones. Australian willows look great. Okay, and we'll just kind of have those flourishing throughout our scene here. Doesn't need to be everywhere. Thinking this is more of like a meadow anyway. And let's get some azaleas out here. We'll just kind of plant those right along the tree lines. So it looks like they're kind of bleeding out from the forest. Okay. And we'll get some different types of grass coming through here. So just add some variations in the color, basically. Might have some that kind of accidentally get on the pathway, which is all right too. I won't even see it, so but just cover our grounds. So I'm going to go back to placement. Something about like that. Okay, we'll get some in our foreground here. Sometimes the cluster placement is good, sometimes it's kind of a little bit off, so adding in some is good too. Okay, add some back here. Just delete out these two so I don't get too into the pathway. That one as well. And then from here, let's add in some twigs maybe. Maybe just a big log. Holding L, we'll scale stuff up. Put it out in there, maybe. Maybe just a few more. Okay. And then I might just add a couple of dead shrubs through here. We're going to have to scale this down, holding L. I'm going to do these individually so it doesn't get too crazy. So just a few of them. Put them in clusters still, but not a lot. We can put some in the background there too. So maybe something about like that. And we'll get some people in there just to show scale. She looks like she's outdoorsy, so put her down at the center there. Let's go ahead and check out some renderings. photo. We'll go to custom style, realistic. See what it's starting to look like. So that's looking pretty cool already. Let's change our heading on our sky. Get some nice deep shadows happening there. I think this is the point of view I was looking for. Let's get a 2-point perspective happening. Okay, I'm going to bring out our focal length, get some more of the landscape in here. Also kind of flattens it out. Okay, that's looking pretty good already. Okay, so that's looking nice. Let's go back to our real skies one more time. I'm going to change it out for a morning view more. Change out our heading one more time. That's looking pretty good already. Center out just a hair more than the ground. We're going to have to add some detail to the ground, but we'll get to that. Let's try some other sun settings here. Maybe we'll add some rain. Precipitation. I'm going to bring down the particle quantity and change the phase. We just have kind of puddles. There we go. That'll add some texture to our ground plane there. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to save this view. What happens if we bring out the focal length just a bit? Go a little bit more dynamic of a view. Too much foreground almost. Yeah, let's go back. What happens if you really bring it out? Fills out our frame much better. Less dynamic, so let's find kind of a nice center, nice median. Okay, so now I'm starting to think the wood might look a little bit too similar, so we'll mess around with some materials here in just a second. So I'm going to change or save this view. I'm liking it. Okay, and then let's add some birds, all that stuff. Let's do seagulls maybe, just a couple. Top of the log there, a few flying. Okay, and our person, I'm going to move her over just a smidge. Okay, so you can kind of see her. Okay, then let's mess with the materials just a bit. Bring up the relief on our pavement there so we get some nice kind of shallow spots starting to emerge. Displacement doesn't do too much for us here. And let's mess with the materials. What if we went with a darker style? That could add some nice contrast to the overall scene here. And on this, that might be too similar. That looks pretty good. Let's turn up the reflectivity. And then let's go to weathering. So we start to see the edges just a bit more. We'll do the same for this material. Find the median there. What happens if we add foliage? Does it help? Maybe, maybe not. This a bit lower. Hold shift, it doesn't quite go as fast as what it typically does. And then let's mess with our pattern offset. And I'm going to bring down our ground plane one more time and bring up the spread. So it still hits in some areas, but a little bit lower on the ground plane. Let's just try it out. And what if we went a little bit, let's bring down the leaf size. Let's get a little bit more green leaves in here. Okay. That's starting to look nice. I wonder if we kind of switch out just a bit of the view. That bird in the foreground's kind of annoying. Okay, mess with our real skies one more time. See if there's a better area. It's looking pretty good to me, actually. So we still get our birds. Let's get kind of a high level view. Nice little pavilion of contours. Then I'm not too sure about the leaves, so I'm going to save this view. Let's mess with the material one more time. It's on this level. Let's bring down the spread. That's looking pretty good. What happens if we add a light on the inside? Brighten it up just a smidge more. Lights. And let's do an omni light. Show off some more of the models in here. I'm going to take out that bird. Okay, so we'll brighten up that whole scene just quite a bit more. And something, don't typically do this, but we'll add some just decals over here just to show some age on it so it doesn't look so regular. I'm going to bring up the actual scale of this so we add just a few varieties of different textures so it doesn't look uniform anywhere. Or not anywhere, but just in key areas that we'd probably notice. Gives it more of a realistic look. Something about like that. Let's go back to rendering. There we go. So that's looking great to me. So we'll go ahead and render this out and we'll take it over to Photoshop next. All right, so it rendered out very nicely. So I'm going to do kind of the typical, see what auto tone looks like. I'm not a fan of that. Let's do auto color. Not a fan with that. I kind of like the warmness of this overall image. So I'm going to just use my burn tool or lighten tool, kind of lighten up the space, get the sky a little bit brighter so it's not so gloom. Okay, so something about like that. It's looking good to me. Maybe darken up some areas. Okay, and then from here we'll do the typical vignetting around the sides. Change it back over to dark here. So we'll do the bottom, do the top. Top might be a little bit too much, but we can always free transform that. Okay, bringing down the opacity. And we'll do a free transform, bringing up our vignette. Just a bit there. That's looking good. I might just add just a bit more up there, and then we'll erase the bottom. Other than that, I think this is ready to go. So thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe and comment. And I'd love to see what you guys are doing on Instagram. So definitely tag me in your stuff, and I'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you.